Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody. And it's an honor to speak with you all today on a subject that's very close to my heart. So as introduced, I'm Andy Palmer. I'm 41 years in the automotive business, notably serving as Chief Operating Officer of Nissan, where, among other things, as Chris said, I led the Nissan Leaf project, but also the associated battery technologies and built the 3 factories around the world that were AESC, including the one in Sunderland. I followed this with 6 years at Aston Martin, and I'm now chairman of Optare PLC, driving the change to EV buses under the Switch mark. And I'm also vice chairman of Innobat, which is a Slovakian battery startup. What I'd like to do today is start with a view on the global automotive industry in general. This is an industry fundamentally challenged even prior to COVID-19. It's in a period of massive change, primarily driven by external factors forcing that change. This change is really being driven by many influences. It's hard to put them in any order, but I would suggest that perhaps the most profound is the change in customer expectations. However, changing customer dynamics is but one of the changes facing the auto industry. Technology, environmental considerations, and legislation are all imposing changes. Gen Z, the generation which is just emerging to take their tests and buy cars, those vehicle owners, they lead the charge towards the electric vehicle more than any other generation. Combine that growing demand with growing legislation and the technology push of the new entrants, and you have the most significant disruptive influence on the auto industry since the horse gave way to the car. The auto industry is going zero emissions. And by zero emissions, what I'm really saying is EV. The speed of the change was partially self-inflicted with the Dieselgate scandal, but the move to both clean up inner city air and reduce human impact on the environment is an inevitable route of travel. The route to EV is more disruptive on the industry than any other event in its history, since it opens up the closed shop to newcomers. The technology is far simpler than the internal combustion engine, and the EV allows easier entry for the digital disruptions led by the tech companies. So, we go into a decade of change. Legislators reflecting the demands of a changing generation that require clean transportation. Customers with new values and demanding changes in the way that we travel. Technology that is disruptive, and a startup culture that is capable of wobbling the establishment. The auto industry will describe these trends in their normal 4-letter acronyms. I'll give you one example of CASE: connected, autonomous, shared, and emissions-free. This is superficially how the industry deals with the implied threat. But in reality, the investment in transforming the portfolio to EV is enormous and will have a material impact on each car maker's bottom line over the coming years. Some manufacturers, for example, have guided us to expect a 30% reduction in EBIT to pay for the investments. The reality might be even greater. So, the car industry is changing under the most turbulent pressures in 100 years. And then you add a pandemic and a global recession, and massive changes are inevitable. What does all this mean for the automotive industry in the UK? Well, it's not great. This is in spite of the fact that the industry employs 823,000 people in the UK, has a turnover of around £82 billion, and an added value to the UK economy of £19 billion. The UK produced in 2019 1.3 million cars, which incidentally was the lowest volume since 2010. This marked the 3rd consecutive year of falling production from a peak of 1.72 million cars in 2016. And no doubt, as we see the 2020 numbers, it will make it a 4th year. This against a broadly static new car sales volume in the UK of around 2.3 million and a decline in the number of cars exported from the UK to around 1 million. This level of production means the UK is no longer in the top 10 countries. In fact, it's 16th behind the Czech Republic, and means that we make half the number of cars of either Spain or France and about 1/4 of that of Germany. Or put another way, we represent about 1% of the total annual car production worldwide. The vast majority of UK produced automotive goods are exported overseas and are destined for the EU. And some 7 out of 10 cars bought by UK consumers come from factories in the bloc. By securing a comprehensive free trade agreement with our largest trading partner, the EU, and here I don't want to get into the politics of Brexit, so I only speak for the auto industry, we've dodged a bullet. The sudden imposition of tariffs, just as the sector was striving to restart and recover from the current crisis, would have been catastrophic. Yet, we also have to overcome the long-term systemic issues for which there is no singular answer and are not caused by issues just starting yesterday, plus, of course, the new challenges resulting from Brexit in the definition of rules of origin. Beyond the emotion of Brexit, let's get back to hard facts and the fundamentals of making cars. The ingredients of maintaining and growing production in a country are as follows. Number one, home country advantage. There will always be pressure to invest in the home market and fill home factories. This is relevant in the context of the Japanese manufacturers, given the new free trade agreements between EU and Japan. However, ownership is not something that we can fix, so let's move on to something that we can. Sourcing decisions. These are primarily driven by economic rationale, i.e., where is the cheapest place to build the car? I think we all know that margins on new cars are very small, at best 6 to 8%, including sales finance and optional accessories. The margin on the base car is often, at best, zero. Therefore, even with minor variations of what's called TDC, or total delivered cost, this makes a profound effect on profitability. Most, if not all, of the plants in the UK are very efficient when operating at close to full capacity. They've enjoyed great success because of this efficiency in the transformation process, and in spite of the fact that on average, only 44% of the car is sourced in the UK. This gets distorted when you think about EVs and the cost of the battery, a point that I'll come back to later. Now let's turn to research and development. R&D is sticky. Its stickiness is a great asset in downturns. Look to Formula One. Formula One stays in the UK because the expertise is here. R&D will always be located close to the mother plants, and the advanced engineering tends to be trialed close to the engineering centers of auto companies. Therefore, in the long term, we do need a materially relevant industrial strategy that sets forth greater intervention. Proper and sustainable investment in new energy technology. I note that yesterday, the EU announced a second, what they call, important project of common European interest, IPCEI, which is focused on supporting research and innovation in the battery value chain. The 12 member states will provide 2.9 billion euros and unlock an additional 9 billion euros, so 12 billion euros in total of aid and investment, are all going into battery development, where the EU is trying to create the battery equivalent of Airbus. We should be under no doubt that the UK will be in direct competition for this investment. Intervention into the process to promote UK research through commercial applications. Did you know, I'm sure you do, but did you know that the lithium-ion battery was invented by a British scientist called Stanley Whittingham, but it's been exploited in China, Korea, and Japan. And there are numerous examples like this, and we have to improve the support for startups that carry concepts through to application. We also need to build the infrastructure for electric and autonomous cars to exist. Make the UK the most open destination for utilization of this technology.